Smiley from the Energy Boutique with your energy forecast for Saturday, August 28th. So the moon is going to be in Taurus all day, giving us another beautiful opportunity to get organized, to get a little bit grounded, a little bit more stable in our thoughts, in our processing, and of course, in our emotions. There are 8 different aspects taking place again today. Again, 7 of them include the moon. The moon right out of the gate is bumping into Mercury, who is in his place of power in Virgo, ruling over our thoughts. Of course, we've been cramming a lot of information in there. We've been processing lots of details. We've been opening up our perspectives. We've been really analyzing the inner workings of not only our daily life, but the plans that we need to put into place in order to get from where it is that we're at to where it is that we want to be. The moon in Taurus bumping into Mercury in Virgo is again Earth on Earth, very logical, very practical, very matter of fact. And this is really going to trigger us to be able to communicate what it is that we're thinking and what it is that we're feeling from a very grounded and stable perspective. Now, this might even be just the inner conversation that we need to be having with ourselves. Things have been all over the place emotionally and mentally. We've been trying to bridge the gap between our heart and our head. And just when we feel like we're gaining a little bit of footing, something happens, something triggers us, and then we spiral again. And then we're given an opportunity to pluck ourselves out of that negative spiral and, of course, build up a more positive and encouraging narrative. Now, Earth energy typically aren't the best communicators, especially when it comes to emotions, because they're coming from the physical realm, first of all, where if it's not logical, it's not practical, it doesn't really, contribute to the overall energy of what it is possible that we have control over today, they would rather not talk about it. But we're being pushed and pulled into these new timelines, into these new contracts where although we would rather avoid thinking about the future and just concentrate on the present moment, we've been given a little bit of a nudge over the last couple of days to kind of bust out of our blinders and at least take the blinders off to see the possibilities of how it is that we want to move forward. So the moon bumping into Mercury right now, although does offer us a lot of opportunity to get on the same page with our heart and our head inside of us, having that inner dialogue between the heart and the head, bringing us to an agreement. There is a beautiful opportunity if the situation presents itself to be able to speak to those that you love, those that you're interacting with matter of fact facts. We are kind of disconnected, detached from the overwhelming emotions that we've been having over the last couple weeks. I say weeks, but really it's been a month of roller coaster up and downs. Now we're able to actually put into words what is the most meaningful, what is the most worthy of actually being talked about. Having the facts, having the time to actually analyze our thoughts and our feelings and to come up with a plan. And now we're able to vocalize that much more easily. The moon is going to be making an aspect with Chiron, who is the wounded healer, retrograde in Arian energy, which is going to present us with an emotional trigger. Yes, this trigger could happen inside of ourselves, but mostly it's likely going to take place in our external realm. And this trigger is meant to trigger our insecurities, trigger our fears, trigger our doubts, trigger the critical narrative that, of course, Virgo season has naturally, especially with Mercury in Virgo as well. It's supposed to trigger this because we have to kind of lose ourselves, break down, so that we can build ourselves back up in a more positive way. This offers a beautiful opportunity, especially when it comes to what it is we actually want, what it is we actually need emotionally to feel safe, to feel secure within our own realms and with sharing ourselves with other people. And that's where the moon actually bumps into Venus, who is in her place of power in Libra, who's really focused on just finding balance, on finding peace, on finding harmony, on everyone being happy. But here's the thing, there's been a lot of indecision. There's a huge and major focus right now on the relationships that we find to be of value that we want to continue to pour in. But there's a lot of decisions going on in the bigger realm of things that has a major impact on the connection, on the intimacy level that we're able to have with our relationships and the people that we deem to be of value and worth. So at this particular point, we're kind of exposing our wounds. And when the moon actually bumps into Venus, again, another fun fact, Venus rules also over Taurus energy, making this a very powerful aspect, seeing that Venus is in its place of power in Libra and is bumping into the moon in Taurus that she rules over. So this is a huge emotional shift. And we're likely going to be feeling a lot of indecision, again, a lot of attachments to the old. We want a new reality, but for some reason, we're scared as hell to make any changes to actually get there. We are recognizing right now that we're really living in extremes, especially in our inner realms, and the craving, the desire for it to be over with, for us to make the decision, for us to be able to fast forward through all the quote unquote work that we have to do to actually get to the vision, the dream that we're holding for ourselves. It's applying a lot of anxiety, a lot of pressure in us because, again, the moon in Taurus wants to be in the present moment, but our realms are pushing us to think about the future. At this particular point where it is very unstable within our inner worlds and in our day, the moon is actually going to come up to, sitting next to, conjunct Uranus, who just went retrograde and is also in Taurus energy. This particular energy is a shakeup. Of course, that Uranian energy is coming through lightning bolts of aha moments, of visions, of ideas, of inspirations, really kind of shifting our perspective. It's one of those situations where we connect the dots in the higher realm. Suddenly we have an epiphany, then we can't unknow it. And then all of a sudden we release some of the negative blockages that were really clouding our judgment. And then we can gain a little bit of clarity. But the moon conjunct Uranus right now is kind of illuminating for us where it is that we want freedom, where it is that we've been feeling a little bit claustrophobic, especially in our relationships, in our choices, in the old, in the attachments that we have been very, very much holding on to desperately for dear life. Because again, this Tauran energy is a fixed energy. It does not want to change. But we know we have to change. So this Uranian energy is going to provide us with a little bit of an aha moment, a little bit of a shift in our perspective to open us up to see that, you know what, we can make little tiny changes. We can take baby steps in the right direction, and it won't be as overwhelming as thinking about the end goal and thinking about all the things that have to happen between now and then to actually show up in that state of reality. This is the perfect opportunity for Venus to bump into Uranus as well. This is really going to illuminate, first of all, where it is that we are bored, right? So a lot of the times it comes with a double-edged sword because we don't want to change. We want to stick to what's familiar. We don't really want to be that dramatic in shifting our realities. However, we're praying for a different reality to just happen. Snap of the fingers, overnight. We'd be happy if we could fast forward and just be living in it. But sometimes we become so firmly attached to keeping things the way that they are that we don't realize that we actually have a huge calling, a huge desire, a huge pull for more in life. So Venus kind of bumping into Uranus at this time is providing us an opportunity to see that, you know what, I don't really want to stay in the same situation, especially, with certain relationship dynamics, because this is boring. I want to spice things up a little bit. There is this calling for excitement, for change, for freedom, for independence. And it does kind of illuminate for us where it is that, maybe we've been too attached to the old. Maybe we've been too attached to certain relationships. And then suddenly we have the opportunity to spiral into that energy. And how does that manifest? It manifests by realizing that, oh my goodness, we have to create more space. I need more freedom. I need more distance. Now, all of a sudden, the commitment that we had in our mental planes, in our heart spaces, really attached to certain narratives, to certain elements and relationships, suddenly that seems a little bit scary. It's like, oh my goodness, we went from one element, not really wanting to let go of anything, not really wanting to make a change, not willing to budge, to now we're like, oh my goodness, if I stay in this exact same environment, I'm going to lose my mind. I need change. I need excitement. These relationships are too daunting. They're asking too much of me. I just want to be free. I just want to kind of escape. So again, may I remind you that Venus being in Libra, of course, that whole mission of the Libran energy is to find balance. But of course, we have to live in extremes in order to recognize where it is that we're not comfortable so that we can find that center point, we can find that balance. So things get a little bit teetery at this particular point in the day because we came out of earlier in the day where our wounds were exposed, where we were overly attached. And now we've had this epiphany, this aha moment where it's like, oh my goodness, I don't want things to stay the same at all. Now we're kind of getting like a little bit overwhelmed and anxious because we desire such great change that we don't even want to stay in the present moment any longer. So the moon actually goes ahead and trines Mars, which is a good thing at this particular point because we're so overwhelmed in our mental plane, we're so overwhelmed in our emotions that of course Mars just wants to act out, take action in this physical realm, using our physical bodies to do something productive with the energy. Because the moon is in Taurus and we typically just want to kind of clean up our space, rearrange a couple of things, do what is comfortable, do what is, semi-productive, we likely will throw ourselves into a physical activity where we can kind of funnel this nervous, uncertain, indecisive kind of energy into a productive task or chore. Again, we typically have super clean houses with the moon in Taurus, especially backed by Virgo energy. That's when the OCD comes out. We just want things to be perfect. We want things to be comfy. We want things to be pristine. So it's likely we're going to tap into this Mars energy and take action on kind of cleaning up our physical environments. And just another kind of glimpse into the mind, body, and soul issue. Our physical realms, right? The rooms that you live in are a mirror to how it is that you're thinking and feeling inside. So your inner energy, if it's chaotic as hell, you're likely surrounded with a mess and disorganization. And when we're feeling chaotic and when we're feeling disorganized in our mental plane and in our heart space, we tend to go and start cleaning our physical realms because when things are in order, neat and tidy and organized in our physical realms, then we can start compartmentalizing our thoughts and feelings and get order within ourselves. So this would be a great time to use that Mars energy for good, to get things into place, to get things cleaned up and organized. And that in turn is going to help us get a little bit of stability in our thoughts and in our feels. Now, the moon goes ahead and bumps into Venus, who, as you know, Venus has kind of had quite a day here today. And the moon in Taurus is now able to offer Venus in Libra a little bit of stability, a little bit of balance, a little bit of grounding, because we threw ourselves into a task, into a chore that exerted that nervous, anxious type of energy. We've seen the productivity take place from our energy and efforts by reorganizing and cleaning up our environments. And again, like I had mentioned, when we're in a clean and neat and tidy, organized environment, that gives the energy in our inner realms the opportunity to ground, to settle, compartmentalize, and to find a little bit stability where there hasn't really been any. So now emotionally, with the moon representing our emotions in Taurus, being very comfortable and comfy and safe and secure in our environments, in our emotions and our mental plane, we're able to go back to Venus at this point and just say, hey, listen, everything's cleaned up. We're making progress here. We're kind of sorting out our thoughts and our feelings. We don't have to detach totally from our relationships. We don't need as much independence, as much freedom as we thought we did earlier. We also don't need to be as attached and as involved as we thought we needed to be earlier on in the day when we had that trigger really expose some of these wounds that had the potential to set us off in a spiral. So now we're feeling good again. We're finding our center point. We're being able to breathe again. We're not as anxious. We're not as overwhelmed with thoughts and emotions, which is a beautiful thing. The moon goes ahead and sextiles, which is a beautiful energy, with Neptune, who is retrograde in Piscean energy. This is our intuition. This is our spirituality. This is our dream, our imaginationary energies. And at this particular point, it's a great time for this energy to kind of seep into our lives, because with all of this earth energy really rooting us into our physical form, into our physical environments, very focused on the now, we get a little bit too logical, too practical, too caught up in our physical realms. And there is a want, need, and desire to balance logic and practicality with dreams, with spirit, with imagination. There is a balance that is needed in order for us to be inspired, in order to actually have the energy to want to initiate change in our physical realities. So the moon in Taurus sextiling with Neptune right now is giving us a beautiful vision, is giving us a picture of the greater goals that we're trying to align with. It provides us with a little bit of healing because we're giving ourselves permission to kind of float off into space, float off into dreamland, giving our physical bodies just enough rest in this day to kind of see what is possible. When we're kind of rooted in this earth energy, we don't think of what is possible. We think of what is. We don't think of what could be. We think of what currently is. The data, the facts, the statistics, the is what it is kind of mentality. But there is a huge want, need, and desire in order for us to dream a bigger dream, for us to think about what could be, what is possible. And this is the particular time, especially going to bed, where we're able to let ourselves drift off into the higher realms of our higher self, of our intuition, in order to dream, in order to visualize what it is that we actually want to pour our energy and effort into for the greater, grander plan.